Welcome back to the shop, and today we're going to be talking about 10 more shop do's and don'ts. The last video that I made, 10 shop do's and don'ts, seemed to be very popular, and a lot of guys enjoyed it and engaged in the conversation. They were leaving their comments. A lot of guys were even leaving their own do's and don'ts, you know, things that I didn't mention in video. So today I'd like to do 10 more, and we might even be able to go in and do a video on the viewer response, you know, things that maybe I didn't mention but I seen in the comment section down below. I think we can all learn from each other here. A lot of us have our own little personal pet peeves that kind of get under our skin sometimes at the shop. You know, you work around guys and not everybody thinks the same way that you do. Not everybody's going to think the same way that I do. You know, what might bother me is not going to bother the next person. And I think that's where a lot of this stems from, is that not everybody thinks the same. But when it comes to a shop and working with people, whether it be a shop environment or an office environment or a construction environment, you know, it doesn't matter. All of this stuff applies to the same basic rules. It's respecting your coworkers, respecting your workplace, respecting your tools, you know, and having proper etiquette in the workplace. You know, we talked a lot about putting tools back in their proper location. I think that's one of the biggest things is putting your tools back where they belong, so that you and other people aren't wasting a bunch of time trying to find something. All right, so I've got 10 more that I'd like to talk about, and some of these are going to be geared towards welding and fabrication as well, but we do have some other ones that are machine shop related as well. So it's just other things, you know, if you guys watch me, you know I do the machining and the welding and the fab. So there's a lot of different areas in the shop that we can talk about, and let's go ahead and jump right into it, and I hope you enjoy. Number one, don't ever come up and just take somebody's welding helmet without asking them first. These type of welding helmets right here, this one in particular is the auto darkening style. So you have different selections inside this thing, different shades, and you also have a grind mode and a weld mode, as well as a fitted headband that's fitted to that user's head. Don't come up and grab somebody's welding helmet and go and use it without asking them. Don't go over there and start messing with the headband and changing these settings and things like that, and then go and take it and put it back where you found it, you know, without asking somebody or notifying them. If you need to borrow a welding helmet, if you know who it belongs to, go up and ask them. Say, hey, do you mind if I borrow your welding helmet? Okay? And if they say okay, then that's fine. But if you're gonna use it, make sure you return it like it is. So another thing is, like, you know, if you grab a welding helmet like this and you go to use it, you come in here and you change the settings to a grind mode when it was set on weld mode, notify somebody or change it back that you did that. Don't go and hang it back up over here with it in grind mode, because the guy that owns that helmet is going to go and use it. He's going to go strike an arc. He's going to burn his eyes up because you set it on grind mode. Don't do that, okay? It's best to have your own welding helmet. That's what I recommend, is have your very own welding helmet. You do not have to have a high-end auto darkening helmet like this. You can have one. I'll show you my original welding helmet that my dad bought for me whenever I first started out. This is a Huntsman 951P. I still absolutely love this welding helmet, and it's a fixed shade. You know, you have no auto darkening there to worry about. So these are not very expensive. You can buy one of these for probably about $50, you know. So it's best to have your own, and you have the headband set to your head, and you don't have to worry about somebody messing with the settings. So be mindful about that. If you need to borrow a welding helmet, ask somebody before you borrow it, and make sure the settings are set back to the way they were whenever you borrowed it. Number two, if you use a welder, you have to do a welding job, you have to pull the leads out. Whenever you're through using that welder, wrap the leads back up where they belong, and just don't leave them in a tangled up pile in the middle of the floor. Put them back on the machine where they go. There's probably a spot for them to properly get wrapped up. and don't leave them in a mess on the floor for somebody to trip on. When you're through welding, put your leads back up on the machine or wrap them up wherever they belong. Number 3, don't burn your grinders up. Learn to properly use a grinder, especially if you're using a cutoff wheel, such as this right here. I see a lot of guys, or I have seen a lot of scenarios where guys are over here grinding, trying to cut something, and you can just hear this motor just bog down like crazy. And they're just eating this wheel up. You see grinding wheel dust just going everywhere, and in 20 seconds they've gone from a 4.5 inch wheel down to a nothing. Okay, learn to use a grinder properly, and what you want to do is just use the weight of the grinder and the speed of the wheel to do the cutting. So if you're going to come over here and you're going to cut something, you just very gently hold on to it firmly and just put a little bit of weight on there and move that sucker around and let the weight of the grinder do the work. Let the grinder do the work. Don't shove it on it with your body and tear your wheel up and burn your grinders up. I've seen grinders get burned up before because guys are overworking them. Okay, just let the wheel do the work, let the motor do the work, and don't shove in on them. All right, these things are not cheap, and usually when you burn one up, it takes an act of Congress to get another grinder replaced, especially if you're using a shop-owned grinder. So take care of the tools that's been given to you and learn to use them properly. Number 4, whenever you use a torch, an oxy-fuel torch, shut it off correctly. If you shut off the gas first, it's most likely going to have this really loud popping sound, which is another one of those things that startles people whenever they're not alert to what you're doing. So the proper way to shut off a torch is to shut off the oxygen first and then shut the gas off. Okay, that's the right way to do it. None of us like that loud pop that you make whenever you come over there and you're using it, and just uncaringly just shut the gas off first, and it makes that loud pop. Sounds like a shotgun going off in the shop. All right, I know some guys think it's funny, but it's not. And I'm going to go ahead and expand on that. When you're through with your torch, wrap it back up just like we did our welding leads, and turn the gas bottles off. Do that every time you get through using a torch, because chances are you're going to walk away from this, you're going to forget about it, you're going to come in the next day and you're going to have an empty gas bottle over here, gas or oxygen bottle. So shut it off correctly and turn the cylinders off whenever you're through using it, every time. Number 5, on pedestal grinders, preserve your pedestal grinders for sharpening tool bits and hard steels. Don't come over to this bench grinder and come over here and grind soft carbon steel like this, or non-ferrous metals such as brass, copper, and aluminum. All that's going to do is load your wheel up. Your bench grinders, and the way that I prefer to do things, this may not apply to everybody, but your bench grinders is made for grinding tools, such as your high-speed tool bits, punches, chisels, things like that, hard tool steels. Whenever you come over here with a soft piece of steel and you're grinding on these things, you're loading up your wheel. And another thing that guys do that are not informed is they'll take, say, like a piece of pipe or a shaft or a rod or something like that, and they want to come over here and they want to, like, say, grind a bevel on the end of this, and they're just shoving that into the wheel. You're eating up your wheel, and you're losing that flat face on your grinding wheel here that should be used for grinding your tool bits, things like that. So stay off the grinding wheel, stay off the pedestal grinder whenever you're grinding soft steels or non-ferrous metals, and preserve it for your hard steels and your tool bits. Number 6, if you grab the last of a consumable item out of your bin, wherever your consumables are stored, if you grab the last one, notify somebody that you're out of this item, that needs to be restocked or reordered. Okay, if you're a business owner, you work for yourself, and you get busy, you know, you come over and you grab this grinding wheel. It's best if you'll just like take yourself a note, write a note, put it on your desk, and say, hey, I need to order some new flap discs, you know, or grinding wheels or whatever. Let somebody know that it needs to be replenished. I've had that problem before where you come up, all right, you come up to the cabinet where these grinding wheels are, and you reach into the box and it's empty. There's no grinding wheel. Don't be that guy that grabs the last one and doesn't tell anybody, because nobody else is going to know until the next guy comes along and needs the grinding wheel and it's not in there because the box is empty. So if you have like an orderer, you know, order expediter in your shop, let them know, say, hey, we need some more of this item right here. We're on the last one. Same thing for any kind of consumable items, you know, flap wheels, taps, drill bits, end mills, carbide inserts, any of that kind of stuff. So just let people know that you need to replace an item. Don't leave it there as a surprise for the next guy and you don't have what you need. Number 7, if you use oil cans, refill them if you empty it out. If you're over here on a job and you're using this cutting oil or whey lube and it runs out, refill it. Don't leave it for somebody else to have to do. If everybody will do that, the oil cans will always be full, and you won't have to come over here. You're right in the middle of a cut, or you're drilling something, and then all of a sudden there's no cutting oil, and you have to stop and you have to go and refill it. Just take the time to refill it whenever it empties if you're using it. Same thing goes for things like this, you know, WD-40 or any kind of other penetrating oils or cleaners or solvents that you might be using. It's not just cutting oil, it's any of them, you know, any kind of oil can. So refill the oil cans if you empty it. Number 8, if you're using a drill bit and that drill bit spins on you in the chuck and it does like that, it galls up on you and pushes over a raised section, repair that before you put it back in the index. You can take a file. That's the easiest way to do it, is just take a file, take a minute and go over there and just file that high spot off and remove it. You can use a bench grinder if you want to. Sometimes you can go over there on a bench grinder and use the corner of the wheel and just hit that little raised area and knock it down. And then just take a file like that and smooth it off. Especially if you're using a drill bit that's in a set, you know, it goes in an index. Usually the index is punched with the proper size hole for the drill to go in. So we'll use this one as an example. You go and use this drill and you spin it and you're done with the job, and you go to put it back in the index, it don't go in there right. You know, it won't go in there because this is messed up. So be sure that you fix your drill shanks if they get galled and spun, so that they can fit back in the drill index properly. Number 9, whenever you get through using a drill chuck, if it's a drill chuck that uses a key, when you're through drilling with it, put the chuck key back in it to store it that way. That way it's always with the drill chuck and you're not having to search over the whole shop looking for a chuck key. Every drill chuck should have its own key and keep it stored in the jaws whenever you're done using it. I do the same thing for all of the drill chucks that I use in my milling machines. Whenever I'm through using the drill chuck and I take it out of the machine, I take that chuck key and I put it back in there like so, and then I put it up and store it. So something that you should always do, make sure you store your chuck keys with the chuck when they're not being used. Number 10, if you're constantly having to borrow a tool from somebody, make a valid effort to purchase that tool. If you come up to me and say, hey Adam, can I borrow your 12-inch hook scale? Well, chances are I'm going to pull that out of the toolbox and I'm going to let you use it, you know. That's how I am. I'm a nice guy. But if this is something that you need for yourself, then make a valid effort to purchase that tool. And I understand that everybody's on a different budget out there. There's guys that are struggling to make ends meet, and you make just enough to pay the bills, keep the lights on, and get you to work. But you can always make an effort to save up that money to buy the tool that you need. You know, take $5 a paycheck and put that to the side in an envelope or in your savings account, and make a goal that I'm going to buy this tool. I don't remember how much the scale right here cost. It was probably $40 or $50 if I had to guess. I don't really remember. But put that money aside and build up. You know, if you have a mom and dad, maybe you can ask them. If you have good friends and family out there, that you can say, hey guys, you know, I'm really working hard. I'm trying to acquire the tools that I need because my company won't buy them. Can you pitch in a few dollars and help me out? You know, you'd be surprised that there's your loved ones will come forward and help you. You know, especially if you're proving that you're working hard and you're making an effort to climb that ladder. So there's a lot of inexpensive options out there, you know, no matter what it is, you know, dial calipers, dial indicators, things like that. Everybody knows that there's inexpensive imported options out there that you can make to get yourself started whenever you start doing this work, and build yourself up. You know, once you get in there and you start making better money, and you start saving up so that you can buy those higher quality tools that we all like to use. All right. So I remember hearing one time Tom Lipton over at Ox Tools had mentioned this in one of his videos, and I believe it was something that somebody told to him years ago was, I don't mind loaning you this tool, but don't stop buying tools. And that stuck with me ever since, you know. So if you have to constantly borrow a tool from somebody, you might need to consider just go ahead and buying it for yourself so that you can get one and put it in your own toolbox. That way it's there whenever you need it and you don't have to go ask somebody for it. So there you go, guys. There's 10 more shop do's and don'ts that you can do to help better your career and your job as a machinist or a metal worker or any trade out there, not just metalworking. You know, just proper shop etiquette, being polite, being kind, and respecting your tools, especially if it's tools that are loaned to you, or if it's you know, your employer owns all these tools and other guys have to share it. It's just a lot of shop etiquette, like I like to call it, out there. So I hope you enjoy it, and I hope some of you younger guys that's coming up are watching these and taking notes and remembering it, because a lot of us have to work with other people, and we all have to get along and respect each other so that we can enjoy our extended family that we're with half the day every day during the work week. Okay, so let me know what you think. If you got any ideas, drop them in the comment down below, and I hope to see you guys real soon.